It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our Mayor, Barbara Rogers.
Madam President, fellow chamber members, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to address you today on the state of your city. I intend to cover a lot of subjects to touch on what has been happening, what's going on now, and what we can expect. First, let me assure you, the state of your city is good. It is in good hands. The voters apparently agree because for the first time in Cupertino's 30-year history, no one ran against the incumbent councilman when their terms were up last November. Financially, the city is sound. Revenue is as projected 7 months into the fiscal year. We have an operating budget of $13.4 million. Our reserves are good, revenue flow is good. Sales tax represents about 84% of our general fund. Among the challenges we face are probable loss of federal and state funding, increased mandates on what we must do, and restrictions on what we're able to do, and the challenge of getting liability insurance coverage. We expect our revenue base to be improved with the advent of 3 hotels. Some of you will have noticed construction's already started at the De Anza lumber site for a motel. That's 126 rooms. 2 nights ago, we approved a 700-room Marriott hotel for Valco. And in a few weeks, we expect to see plans for a 240-room DoubleTree hotel on the Cali site. These hotels and all the construction in town are the culmination of several years of planning based on our city's general plan, which is a state-mandated document. We recently revised the general plan. That was a 3-year effort. It was finally finished in 1983 and adopted by council, and a great many people in town worked on it. I see some of them here today, and we owe them a great debt of thanks. Not all the development next year will be private. The city is finalizing plans to move City Hall functions into the basement. We need more room. We will consider helping subsidize library expansion. 7 acres remaining at Memorial Park are being investigated as a site for a community center. We hope construction on that will begin this summer. Construction will also begin this summer on renovating Linda Vista Park and on constructing Hoover Park. Jollyman Park is scheduled for next year. Several sites for a new post office have been investigated and discarded by the Postal Service, mainly on the basis of high land costs. Investigation continues, and I hope we reach a decision this year. I'd very much like to see construction start this year. Traffic continues throughout and through Cupertino unabated, and traffic will not lessen. This creates problems in the neighborhood, as well as making Stevens Creek and De Anza Boulevards, among others, very crowded. The city continues to study circulation, both on a total system basis and as it impacts the neighborhood. On February 3, we will be looking at the Eaton School neighborhood to see how we can mitigate traffic problems there. 85 will provide relief. Next Wednesday night, the 29th, representatives of each of the cities along the 85 corridor will meet to try to agree on an alternative for that corridor, how many lanes there should be. I don't know what will happen since Los Gatos has voted to have no freeway. I'd like to take this opportunity, though, to thank all the people and all the groups, particularly the Chamber, who've worked so hard to keep 85 on track. The battle is not over. We'll continue to need your voices and your letters. The widening of 280, the adding of a 4th lane between Magdalena and 17 is still in the state's work project. Right now, it's planned to put in the part between Saratoga Avenue and Highway 17 first. Undergrounding of utilities along De Anza Boulevard will take place this summer, and at the same time, we'll be adding a 4th lane southbound on De Anza Boulevard, running from 280 to Bollinger. The completion of the 3rd lane northbound of De Anza awaits the city's acquisition of the Barclay Bank property. There will be spot widening of streets throughout town as a function of our general plan. A median will be installed on Foothill between 280 and Stevens Creek. Monte Vista has changed radically. There are street improvements and new buildings which has given it a new look. And we have had to address the increased traffic in that neighborhood too. The two remaining large sites that are zoned residential, that is Mariani and Seven Springs, have let their use permits expire. The remaining orchard land is gradually being developed for residential. I'm proud of the balance that our city has been able to maintain for residential, commercial office, and industrial. And I'm particularly proud that we have leaders in technology here in Cupertino. Apple, Hewlett-Packard, Four-Phase, MeasureX, Tandem, and many others. We have had some hazardous leaks in Cupertino. None of it has gotten into the water table. They are being cleaned up on a planned basis and on schedule. All the companies affected have been and are cooperative, and we are monitoring the sites. Another challenge facing the city is to provide housing for all the people in our community. This is very difficult with soaring land prices. One of the items that will appear on our February 3 agenda, which I think is of interest to the business community, is the proposed 50-cent per foot tax on all development throughout the city. The proposed money to be raised would be used to provide low and moderate income housing. And this would be administered, it is proposed, by a nonprofit housing corporation. I understand the chamber has some reservations about this, and maybe that's a polite way to put it. I would very much like to see a viable alternative. This recommendation was made by the Below Market Rate Housing Committee, and I think it would be useful to talk to them to find out what they considered in their deliberations. The deliberations of the Rental Housing Committee resulted in a city contract with Operation Sentinel. That is an agency for information and referral and for mediation. So far, they have mediated 5 disputes. I'm proud that the 27 units of disabled housing were built next to De Anza College, which has such a good developmentally disabled program. We are concerned about the needs of our increasing senior population. Our senior center is in almost constant use. We have approved 220 units for senior living across from the Cupertino Fire Station. We have also approved El Camino Hospital's plan for senior residential facility on St. Joseph's property. It will be at least 3 years before construction can start on that. As other governments phase out of social services, we have felt it important here in Cupertino to address the needs of our own people. We help to fund Cupertino Senior Day Services, Cupertino Community Services, Mid-Peninsula Support Network for Battered Women, the Food Bank, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program of Catholic Social Services, and the National Council of Christians and Jews Witness Assist Program. A first for Cupertino this year was a recent donation of $5,000 to a mayor's fund to help address the needs of the homeless here in Cupertino, the people who live on streets in this town. Half of that was dispersed over the Christmas holidays, and I hope that this fund can become larger to help address the needs that we have here for our own people. We are investigating emergency communications. Many of you know we're part of a library district, a county library district, and a county fire district. We contract with the sheriff's office for our police services. Some of you will have noticed that 4 of our traffic officers ride motorcycles to better enforce the traffic laws in town. I hope you all obey the laws and don't become one of their statistics. Other agencies with which we're intimately concerned are the school districts. We've cooperated with the Cupertino Union School District, particularly in the area of surplus school disposal. and most recently to help plan that the closed Hoover and Jollyman sites will be used in part for city parks and the rest developed into housing to be sold to benefit the school district, which needs the funding. We're proud of our high schools, which continue to get recognition for their athletic, their scholastic, and their music programs. De Anza fills a very special need. They have special programs for the disabled, for seniors, for child development. Flint Center is sometimes used by the community, and we're proud that they were recognized as being first in the state and in the top 5 nationally in instruction. We're now the home of Cogswell College, which awards degrees of Associate and Bachelor of Science in Engineering Technology, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Fire Administration. We have a Good Sister City program with Toyokawa, Japan, and we will again exchange junior high school students this year. The Monte Vista Madrigals will go over there and visit and perform, and we look forward to the visit of their mayor, Yamamoto, here in April to coincide with the Cherry Blossom Festival. And we hope that the 200 cherry trees that Toyokawa gave to Cupertino will be in bloom then. I want to emphasize very strongly that the city is the people in it, the people who live here and the people who do business here. And we are thrice blessed. We have a fine staff. They're able, they're dedicated, they're caring, they're conscientious. The business people not only provide revenue to the city, they also get involved in city affairs. Particularly those who live outside the city use the avenue of the chamber to help participate in community activities. And the business people who live in town have left us a proud legacy, among them Valco. And you heard that the mall has been sold to Westfield of Australia, and we look forward to continuing the same good relationships with them we've had with Valco. Then there are the residents who care to get involved, who participate in city life. On the 7th of January, we interviewed for openings on city commissions, and we had 18 people apply for 3 openings on on Architecture and Site, 3 for 1 opening on cable TV, 13 for 3 openings on Park and Rec, and 19 for 3 openings on public safety. I think that indicates that people care about what happens in town when they would volunteer for that at little thanks and less pay. People in town also volunteer. I want to tell you about an incident that happened Tuesday. A man came to see me. He was elderly, he looked to be retired. He told me that he had extra food, which he apparently gets from supermarkets or the like, and he had been sharing it with churches. But he concluded that the people there in the churches were better off than he. So now he's sharing it with Cupertino Community Services. This Saturday, we are honoring 2 people at the Chamber's Citizen of the Year banquet because their efforts through the years have made Cupertino a better place to live. Sally Brennan and Dennis Whitaker. One area we might be thought to be deficient is in the arts or cultural activities. We do have Cupertino Junior Players as part of Park and Rec. The Janlin Professional Dance Troupe is here in Cupertino, and we have the Cupertino Fine Arts League. And at De Anza, we not only have Flint Center, where we can see professional entertainment, it also houses Minolta Planetarium, the UFRAT Art Gallery, and is the home of the cable TV studio. But I would like to see more emphasis on art here in Cupertino in the future. I would like to see something like a mayor's fund for city art. I think we must nourish the spirit as well as the mind and body. In sum, everything happening in Cupertino today is the result of all the planning that's gone on through the years. We can guide growth, but we will grow. And the planning process is one of compromise, where people are not always happy with what is built and what is not built. We have residents who look around with horror at what's going up and they wonder what happened to their sleepy town and if the council's round the bend. We have citizens who wonder why the particular need they see is not addressed. And we have members of the business community, maybe some of you here, who resent restrictions on growth and development and think that we urgently need a council that's more responsive to growth. We're assisted by all of you, by your complaints and by your suggestions. A challenge that's coming in a few years that's going to require, I think, a very great effort of cooperation on everybody's part will be the solution to our solid waste generation problem, what we do with it. Another problem, though of a very different character, is how to disseminate information, and that's an ongoing city concern. To that end, we've established the Office of Community Affairs. That office, everyone at City Hall, especially I, would very much like to hear from you. We know that you care. You send in your sound-off cards, and those are answered, and you attend council and planning meetings, even though we've been cablecast live for 3 years. We do this planning process in public for all the world to watch our mistakes, which makes it different from the way some of you function, perhaps, and it is a continuing challenge. I make new acquaintances constantly in Cupertino. I learn more about the history, and I meet the people who lived the history. And I would like for all of us to have a better appreciation of our history here, perhaps through efforts of the Historical Society or the California Chamber. I make new acquaintances in town. I meet people who are leaders. I meet people who help others. I'd like to involve leaders in industry more this year in those 2 areas. Cupertino is the finest community in which I've ever lived, and I've lived in communities all across the country. We owe a debt to the past, to the residents, the businesses, the leaders. We need the help of everyone. I ask you to get involved so that we can maintain and improve Cupertino as a good place to live and raise children and do business and grow old gracefully. I'd like to know you all better. I'd like to help assist you as I can in your efforts and concerns. In the last analysis, this is your city, and in the first analysis as well. We're here to serve you. Benjamin Franklin said, if we don't all hang together, we'll all hang separately. And I prefer to say, together there's nothing we can't do. Madam President.